Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Autumn Amour, one of the many BookTube events that I'm involved in this month. This was created by the Bookish Bryants, and it is designed to celebrate romance fiction. I'm a big fan of romance fiction. I read a lot of it. I have a bookcase entirely dedicated to it that is double stacked and also stacked on top in a way that is almost untenable. Another year of romances will probably mean I'll need to move them somewhere else, somewhere with more real estate. I love them. I was introduced to them late. I was a snob about them for a long time, and then came to be introduced to them in a way that made me realize not only that book snobbery is wrong no matter what, but also that these things are really enjoyable. And now I actively read romance all year long. But it was still great. It's still great to have an event devoted to it. Except that except that some parts of my Autumn Amour have led me into dubious territory, into dark and strange corners of the romance world. Uh, I have dragged you along with me while we have involved the Omega verse, where men can get preggers and squeeze out babies down their poop chutes. We have explored tentacle romance. We have explored just recently the world of novels of passionate, torrid love affairs between twins. The world of twincest that a couple of you know a lot more about than perhaps is healthy. And I had a feeling after a bit of that, maybe a bit too much of that I might be traumatizing all of you, or maybe a little bit traumatizing me. So I went back to that bookcase of romances. The 90% of that bookcase is old-style Regency romances. The Regency period, Regency historicals, are still unbelievably popular in the romance genre. There are 50 of them a month. And 4 or 5 or 6, maybe 10 of those a month are high-profile authors who write those things. They have lavish, brightly colorful covers and lots of anachronisms that are just genially accepted on the part of both the writer and the reader, where the characters will talk in a more or less old-timey kind of English, but with virtually no actual period slang. We know everything about how the Regency period talked. And there will be virtually none of that. There'll be virtually no Regency period vocabulary like the characters would use. There won't be anything like that. Instead, it will be relatively contemporary speech and also relatively contemporary morals and moral behavior, which means that the characters will maul each other, they'll claw each other, they'll suck face with each other like suction pumps. They'll be in and out of bed long before the end of the book. Whereas in a traditional Regency novel, that isn't true. There will be barbed dialogue, maybe a little flirting, maybe a kiss as long as the man doesn't know who he's kissing, doesn't know that she's a member of the quality. But there won't be anything explicit in the book. That simply won't happen. That is for later. That is for marriage. I don't know why, I don't know what it is, but something about those old Signet Regency romances created the mother of all sweet tooths in me, and they are the bulk of the romance novels that I have. And whether I was prompted by, taken by the T-Rex, and the Omega verse, and Tentacle verse, and Twincest, or whether it was just time, I went back to the safety of some of those Regencies last night. I read The Reckless Barrister by April Kilstrom. I have a whole bunch of April Kilstrom. See what I mean? These things that were made, they had the banner up top there, they had the Signet logo there, and they had the cover artwork. Those are models in a studio, but they are painted. And you get the background of a study and a fire and whatnot. This is when hot-headed Lady Emily Ashburn bursts into his office. Philip Langford's first instinct was to turn her out immediately. She was spouting nonsense about oppressed factory workers and demanding an immediate change in the law. But Emily's passion and strength intrigued him, and when he discovered her crusade would also discourage a dastardly suitor who had trapped her in a betrothal, he agreed to help her. Emily was certain most men weren't to be trusted, especially handsome men like Philip, with endless charm and mocking eyes. But when he introduced her to the proper members of the ton, of the upper society, to help her cause, Emily's feelings of scorn blossomed into the most unexpected love. And this was in the very late 90s, this book appeared. And it was in the very late 90s that this whole run started to falter and come to an end. But it was also here that historical romances tended to start to change. Before then, Lady Emily would have been simply going about her business, right? She would have been buying gloves, hosting parties, teas, whatnot, spending time in the country, going to the city house during the season and whatnot. But there wouldn't have been any social element to what she was doing. You know, Dorothea Brooke notwithstanding, there wouldn't have been any social element to what she was doing. She just would have been basically waiting to find a husband. But then gradually an element entered into these books of what are these young women doing on their own, apart from looking for a husband. And that happens in this book. And then the other book that I read was The Dastardly Duke, by Eileen Putnam. Again, with this kind of charming painted cover. Here we have not a Regency drawing room, but a thatched cottage in the countryside. Julian Lefebvre, Duke of Claridge. So the first one, the member of the nobility, was Lady Emily. In these old Regency romances, at least one character will always be a member of the landed gentry. Usually both, only if it's both and they are both, for instance, in the line of succession, they are acknowledged, they are not byblows, they are not in disguise or anything like that. If they're just in that world, then the differentiating factor between them will almost certainly be money. Julian Lefebvre, Duke of Claridge, found being a reformed rake terribly dull. So he wagered a friend that he could make any pretty trollop in London pass for a lady of the town. But when his friend presented him with Miss Hannah Gregory, Julian felt a stirring of doubt and of desire. Indeed, far from the typical light skirt. See what I mean? These old Regencies use the Regency lingo that is totally absent from modern Regency romances. Hannah had a ready wit, a wicked tongue, and the most wondrous grey eyes. And although she concealed her real past, she couldn't disguise her unbending pride or her attraction to the scoundrel who offered a small fortune to transform her into a smooth-tongued beauty. So she's not just anybody. In the course of the novel, we find out, he finds out what her actual identity is. But as in the first case, by the time either one of these pairs learns the full truth about each other, they are already in love. It's at page 50. These aren't long books, but it's at page 50 of either one of these books that you know literally everything that's going to happen. All that is going to keep you reading are the little inconveniences, the little obstacles that the authors throw in the way. You know there's no chance that these people aren't going to end up with each other. And that makes these books predictable and light and charming. Without a tentacle in sight. So there you go. That's my report for Autumn Amour for today. I was driven, perhaps timidly, back to the fields that I know. I don't know how long this will stay true. Will I do some naughty reading tonight? We will see. I'm not thinking about it during the day. I'm picking these things on the spur of the moment, right when it comes time for reading time. So I have hours yet to decide. But in the meantime, I'm going to wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.